Welcome back to Transform and Evolve webinar on changing your life, transforming and evolving in 7 days. Today is day 2. Now, yesterday we worked on finding the greater problem, the root that will help you remove whatever is going on in your relationship. And we discussed finding things that you value, things that you're looking for, really coming up with a history of this situation and developing a greater understanding around it. Things about where you were as a young child, people you watched around you in relationships. So I hope you've taken some time to go through that exercise and really get a detailed understanding about your concept of relationships and how perhaps your unconscious mind is working against you in this area. Now, if you haven't watched the first video, please stop here and watch the first video completely before jumping into this one. Okay, there is a system and a process here, and it's most effective if you follow the process that I'm outlining. So in the root problem, today we're going to talk about something called gestalt. And essentially, the easiest way I can explain this is the first time we ever had an experience, we store it in our mind, and then every time thereafter we have something similar, our unconscious mind goes back and finds somewhere in the data that experience, and it automatically compares a new experience to it, and it starts to develop a more thorough understanding, if you will, around that. Now, we experience new things all the time. And it's interesting how when we experience that new thing, our unconscious mind is still able to go back and find experiences similar enough to where it takes away some of that uncomfortableness that we might feel, gives us enough data to at least perform and function in the new experience. If you don't believe me, just kind of think about this for a little bit. Do a little brainstorming on how this might be the case in your life. It's actually a scientifically proven thing, that's how our unconscious mind works. So a gestalt is where we witnessed something. Take, for instance, don't touch that, it's hot, but we did it anyway and we burnt our finger. I know it's a simple experience, but it was traumatic for you. And then every time after, you've learned from that and you don't do that ever again. So there was an emotion attached to that event. Now, in the concept of the root problem, let's say it is a belief that you developed as a young child that I am unworthy of love. And it could be something as simple as you were 1 year old and you did something that you thought was okay and you got yelled at. Now, it could be that your parent was yelling at you for good cause because they were concerned that you were going to get hurt. It could be some other example, but you as that 1 year old, for whatever reason, you interpreted that experience as I'm not being loved. And so that started a small problem of not feeling worthy of love. And then as more events happened in your life that were similar, that same concept, that same belief got developed further. And so by the time you're of an age where you want to be in a romantic relationship, you still have this belief inside of you of I'm unworthy of love. And so what's interesting is you behave, act, and perceive your reality through this lens of I'm unworthy of love. Now, I'm not presupposing that everyone has this. I know there's probably quite a few people that would feel this way. So it's an interesting concept as we look at these root problems and how they pervade our entire life. I think it's important right now in this discussion part of this video on a root problem is to understand that these limiting beliefs are formed And then it causes us to behave, believe, do things in ways that are not congruent with our true desire. Like everyone wants to be loved, right? But if you have this belief that I'm unworthy of love, then you're going to see the world outside in a way that's in agreement with your belief of I'm unworthy of love, instead of what you're consciously wanting, which is to be loved. So let's unpack this concept. I mentioned in the first video that we have 2 million bits of data coming at us every second. Now we're going to call that ultimate reality, right? That's all the data present coming at you. But your conscious mind, capable of only around 5%, give or take, computing power, it's not able to handle all 2 million. So it handles roughly 126 bits. That's half of a percent. A very small fraction of what ultimate reality is. So you're conscious of a small piece of ultimate reality. Now, we talked briefly about the reticular activating system. That is the part of your brain that tells your unconscious mind what data to bring forward to the conscious mind. So if you're only getting a small, tiny sliver of ultimate reality, and you have this belief that I am unworthy of love, then your unconscious mind is only going to bring forward information in reality that supports that belief of I'm unworthy of love. So you see how this problem develops in your life. In neurolinguistic programming, we talk about deletions, distortions, and generalizations. That is how everybody sees reality, is through one of those three things. Deletions is where you just don't even see it. Distortions is where you may see something, and let's just be really simple about this. You're looking at something and it's pink, but you see it as blue. That's a distortion. Very simplistic example. It could be as simple as somebody doing something, walking, acting in a certain way, and you interpret it in a way that fits your belief system, but all the other people around you would see that same behavior and think of it totally different. That's a distortion. And a generalization is where we just take all the data and kind of bundle it up because we just can't compute it all, right? So it's a generalization. So your root problem is the basis of how you delete, distort, and generalize the information coming at you. So let's go back to this example of I am unworthy of love. You're going to delete things, you're going to distort things, and you're going to generalize things around you in your environment so that you continue to support this belief that I am unworthy of love. Now, whatever your greater problem is, it all holds true. So whatever your root problem is that you wrote down in your notes from the other day, just know that you are deleting, distorting, and generalizing your reality in order to support that greater problem, whatever it is. Now, we're going to do a process of lighting this emotional baggage up inside. This is important. So I want you, now that you have this greater problem or this root problem, take 5 to 10 minutes, pause this video, and take 5 or 10 minutes to write out the things that hurt you the most, that upset you the most, that make you angry, that make you sad. Let's go through the emotions, the base emotions. How are you angry around this problem in life? Like, how has this problem caused you anger in your life? How has this problem caused you to be hurt or sad? How has this problem caused you to have fear? Those are the base emotions, right? Anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt, shame. Go through those emotions. You could write a lot or you could write a little, but spend some time in a trance-like state and just allow your body to let these emotions rise to the surface. You've done an excellent job at stuffing all these emotions down over the years. Now we're going to let this come up to the surface. Why is it important? because we're going to do a release process to let all of that go. Okay, pause the video now and spend as much time as you need to go through all of those emotions just on a piece of paper and write out some detailed personal history around each emotion and how this root problem has caused you these emotions in your life. And we'll come back and do the release process. So you've now done your homework here on these emotions, and I'm sure some of you are feeling a little bit agitated right now, and that's for good cause, because now we're going to go through a release process to release these emotions and release the greater problem, the root problem. So what I'd like for you to do now is just make sure you're in a safe place, seated, calm, and close your eyes for me. We're going to utilize your unconscious mind for this process. Now, what I'd like for you to do is to imagine that you have a timeline, and you're going to, in your mind's eye, float up above your timeline. And whichever way your timeline goes, just see that there is a past and a future. Some people may see the future to the right and the past to the left. Some may be forward and backward. Whatever it is perfect for you. Just notice that there's a past and a future, and a point called now, which is present moment. And we're going to do a little exercise to get you familiar with this process. I want you to think of a time, a happy time in the past where you were very happy. And I'd like for you now to float up above your timeline and float back into the past to this event, trusting your unconscious mind to take you exactly to the point on your timeline where this happy event occurred. Whatever happens is perfect. And now as you get to this place, I want you to float above this event and look down at this event and see what you see, feel what you feel, hear what you heard. And notice how you feel about this event. And now ask your unconscious mind to come back to now. And when you come back to now, you can float back into the room and open your eyes. How was that? That's a little taste of what we call timeline therapy. And we're going to use this process to release these emotions around your greater problem in relationships. So now I'd like for you to remember that you're performing at 100% today. You're here because you want to improve, evolve, and grow and release these things that are holding you back. So with that, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and just relax. And now I'd ask your unconscious mind to float up above your timeline and to take you back to the very first time that you ever felt anger. Just trust your unconscious mind to take you back into the past, float up above the event, the first time you ever felt anger. And when you're there, ask your unconscious mind, what is there to learn from this event, with which when learned will allow for your easy and effortless removal of any anger and any of the sub-emotions around anger. And now float before the event, turn around and face now, before any event where you felt anger. And as you float before this event, facing now, float higher up and further back. Float up as high and as far back as necessary to fully release any of the anger. And you'll start to notice the sensation releasing. Keep floating higher up and further back. Make the timeline a tiny little speck of dust down in front of you and float as far up, as far back as possible. Excellent. Feeling that full release of anger. And now I'd like for you to come back down to your timeline and notice that the emotion of anger has fully released. And now instruct your unconscious mind to take you back till now only as quickly as you can release all of the emotions of anger and any limiting beliefs around anger, all the way back till now on this event and every subsequent event, all the way back till now. And when you come back till now, you can come back in the room. And now I'd like for you to close your eyes again, float up above your timeline, instruct your unconscious mind to take you back to the very first event with which you felt sadness. Trusting your unconscious mind to take you back to the very first event where you ever felt sadness for the first time. Float above the event, ask your unconscious mind, what is there to learn from this event with which when learned will allow for the easy and effortless removal of sadness? And instruct your unconscious mind now to float before and behind this event. And as you float before and behind this event, turn around and face now, and float higher up and further back, instructing your unconscious mind to release this emotion of sadness and any limiting beliefs around sadness. Float higher up and further back, as high up and as far back as needed to fully release this emotion of sadness. Make the timeline a small little speck in front of you. And now as you feel the full release of sadness and the release of any limiting beliefs, float down now, back to the event above your timeline, and notice that the emotions of sadness have fully released. And now instruct your unconscious mind to preserve the positive learnings, float back till now only as quickly as you can release all of the limiting beliefs around sadness and any of the negative emotions of sadness on this event and all subsequent events all the way back till now. And when you come back to now, you can float back in the room. And now I'd like for you to close your eyes again, float up above your timeline, instruct your unconscious mind to take you back to the very first time on your timeline where you felt fear. Float up above your timeline now and go back to the very first event where you felt fear for the first time, trusting your unconscious mind to take you exactly where you need to go. And when you're there, ask your unconscious mind, what is there to learn from this event with which when learned will allow for the easy and effortless removal of all fear? Asking your unconscious mind to preserve the positive learnings, float before and behind this event, turn around and face now. And as you do so, float higher up and further back. Instruct your unconscious mind to release the fear and any limiting beliefs around fear. Float higher up and further back. Float as high and as far back as necessary to fully release all of the negative emotion of fear. And as you do so, feel the fear fully releasing. Now, float back down to the before the event and ask your unconscious mind to fully release all of the fear and any limiting beliefs on this event all the way back till now. Each subsequent event, fully release all of the negative emotions of fear all the way back till now. When you come back till now, you can go back in the room. And now I'd like for you to close your eyes again, float up above your timeline, and instruct your unconscious mind to take you to the very first event where you felt hurt for the first time. Float up above your timeline and go back to the very first event where you felt hurt for the very first time. Wherever is perfect. Go before the event and behind the event and ask your unconscious mind, what is there to learn from this event with which when learned will allow for the easy and effortless removal of this hurt and all of the limiting beliefs around hurt. Float higher up and further back. High up and far back, as high and as far back as necessary to fully release all of the limiting beliefs around hurt and all of the negative emotions of hurt. And instruct your unconscious mind to preserve the positive learnings as you release this emotion of hurt. And now as you float high up and far back, notice that all of the hurt is released and all the limiting beliefs are released. And now float back down to the moment on the timeline and instruct your unconscious mind to come back to now only as quickly as it could release all of the limiting beliefs around hurt and all of the negative emotions around hurt on each event subsequent to this event all the way back till now. And when you come back to now, you can come back in the room. And now I'd like for you to close your eyes one more time. And we're going to release guilt and shame. I'd like for you to float up above your timeline, instruct your unconscious mind to take you back to the very first event where you felt guilt and shame for the first time. Trusting your unconscious mind to take you to the right place on your timeline, the first time you ever felt guilt and shame. And as you float above your timeline, go back to this very first event. And when you're there, ask your unconscious mind, what is there to learn from this event with which when learned will allow for the easy and effortless removal of all the guilt and shame and any limiting beliefs around guilt and shame. And now float before this event, turn around and face now, and instruct your unconscious mind to release all of the negative emotions of guilt and shame and any limiting beliefs around guilt and shame, and float higher up and further back, as high up and as far back, making the timeline a tiny speck of sand down in front of you. So high and so far back to fully release all of the guilt and shame. And as you float higher up and further back, notice the feelings of these emotions fully releasing and the limiting belief releasing. And now that these emotions have fully released, float back down to the event and instruct your unconscious mind to preserve the positive learnings and to float back till now only as quickly as you can release all of the limiting beliefs and limiting emotions around guilt and shame on each subsequent event all the way back till now. And as you come back till now, you can come back into the room. You can open your eyes. Take a deep breath, let all that energy out. Let's do a few of those breaths in through the nose. In through the nose. And one more, in through the nose. There you go. How was that? Woo! I could feel that working inside of me. Excellent, excellent job. So that was our release of those emotions and limiting beliefs around the greater problem. I'd like for you now to revisit your root problem. Just take a moment, pause the video, and reflect. Read through all of your information there, and I want you to see how it feels now inside of you. I know it's going to feel a lot different for you. You may remember those things that you wrote, but they are not going to have the same type of impact on you emotionally. You'll be like, yeah, I remember that, but it's kind of funny now. I can tell you I've done this process so many times in my life, and it is amazing each time I do it at what comes out and how I feel after the process is done. So, excellent job today, guys. You're doing a fantastic job. Tomorrow will be day 3. We're going to work through additional release work and other processes as we move forward in your transformation journey on relationships. Until then, take care.